What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. Right here on DSM Media. Make sure if you're not already following DSM Media on Twitter at DSM_media, on IG at DSM.DoSomethingMajor, and on TikTok at DSM Media, just straight spelled through. But yes, welcome back to another show, Scotty Talks NBA. As you can see, I have a very special guest, one of my fellow members of DSM Media, my man Jeremy. And you can be sure if you're not already following Jeremy, make sure you find him on Twitter at Horwoth11. And Jeremy, my man, what is going on today? How you feeling, brother?
Oh, I'm feeling good. First of all, thank you. Unlike Dylan, you say my last name correctly, so I appreciate that. Dylan's always with the Horwoth. You got it.
I knew it.
You got it.
I almost said it, and I was like, I read it again. I was like, no, it's spelled that way for a reason.
I'm doing good though. I'm very happy to be here. Love being on Scotty Talks.
Awesome, man. And I'm definitely happy to have you here. I always love, kicking the can with you, but we're definitely going to talk some Sixers. I'm going to get into some deep Sixers stuff, talk about expectations. Obviously, we got a game tonight. If you're watching this, it's going to be Wednesday morning. So we got a game tonight against the Pacers. I don't know about you. I'm not putting too much stock into a game like this. This should be a game where the Sixers take care of business, get them out of the way, but you know how that goes sometimes.
Yes.
But really, in this show, we're just going to discuss the overall picture. We're looking towards the playoffs right now. We got 4 games to go against, we got the Raptors left in the mix, but aside from that, no playoff teams. And we got to start thinking about what the Sixers need to do and what we're expecting from them. So me and Jeremy's going to get into a little bit of that. Then after that, I will finish off the show with just a trip around the NBA, just doing a little brief coverage of all the things going on around the league. Before we dive into Sixers, I just want to shout out Jeremy, because if you saw the new intro video right there, the crisp, clean cut clips, we had to fix some stuff with the music as well, but awesome intro. And if you love that intro, definitely check out Jeremy, because he's great at all of that stuff, getting creative back there. But thank you so much for the intro. Of course, I wanted to shout you out on the show.
Hey, love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man. I know you do. So definitely even if you're not part of DSM, Jeremy helps me out in DSM. He's part of the squad, the family here. You're not part of DSM, hit Jeremy up. He's got the talents to do whatever you need. And I'm sure you can work that out, but definitely check him out on social media. You got the @ name right there. Let's get into the actual content, my man. We're going to get into a little bit of Sixers talk. And where I want to start today, Jeremy, we'll get right into it. Just thoughts on the recent play. Obviously, I think, what was it, a 3-game losing streak, now a 2-game winning streak, looking for the 3rd one in a row tonight. What are your thoughts on the recent play of the Sixers as we get ready for the playoffs?
It's really weird, because we were going up against those good teams, and that's where our 3-game losing streak really came from. We go up and we lose against the Suns in that fashion, that 4-point loss, and we're losing the games that if we won, we'd all feel so much more confident about this team. And the fact that there's times where we're playing well against them. I know there was one game where we didn't play that well, but we're playing well against these good teams. And then towards the 4th quarter, it stops and just something goes wrong.
Yeah.
That's what kind of worries me when I just look at it from an aspect of they're struggling towards the end. And it makes you think hey, regardless, they're in the 3rd or 4th seed right now. They had a great regular season, but how are they going to finish it off? The playoffs are the 4th quarter. If they're not doing well in the 4th quarter in games, it just worries me a little bit in the playoffs. So their play right now at this very second, the team kind of just feels a lot different than it did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like when I see Joel Embiid press conferences, for an example, he's not the front runner for MVP. You can tell he's definitely upset about it. It's something that means a lot to him. But just when I see things like that, and obviously he's still going out there and having his games, but it just seems like the morale of the team is just low. It just seems that way. So going into 4 games left in the season, things have to be figured out. We're seeing at the end of the fourth quarter, Doc's not even, it seems like he's not even really trying to go out there and be like, guys, let's go. Like, not on his feet yelling, like, let's figure this out. We need wins. We can get a number 1 seed right now. And they're coming out and just not proving that they really deserve to be a number 1 seed. And that's why they're not. Yeah. So they're in a weird place. I've been a firm believer in just wait till we get the playoffs. That's when they'll figure it out. But I thought they'd figure it out before that, at least a little bit. And it seems like they haven't. So I'm a little bit worried at this point for the Sixers going into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to put it, honestly. After the Harden trade, it was close to around the All-Star break. Obviously, it was right before the trade deadline, literally that day or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they had like the little honeymoon for like the next 2-3 weeks where everything was looking golden. You're like, man, if this continues, if they keep building on this, they will be legit title contenders. And just didn't really happen. Like, I won't say that it didn't happen, but just did not happen the way that will make you comfortable. And that's for sure. You mentioned it, the fourth quarter meltdowns. And it's like, okay, you can kind of throw it to the side when it happens against the Suns, who are the defending Western Conference champions, when it happens against the literal defending NBA champions, the Bucks. But then when it happens against the Pistons, that's when that red flag, that alarm goes off, and that concluded that 3-game win streak. Then you come out, of course, you go out on a Saturday afternoon, you blow the Hornets out, sure. And then on Sunday, they took care of business against the Cavs, but still didn't look very good against the 7th seed in the East. And so that's where the concern comes in. And, I guess my next question for you is, where does the real concern lie for you? Because, as I'm looking at this team, I'll go ahead and say it's honestly James Harden for me, because for me, I'm not expecting too much from the bench. Like, when they suck, that's what I expect. So, like, when I look at what the Sixers are going to need to do in the playoffs, I think it's going to have to be the stars. They have to play lights out. They have to go nuclear in this playoff run. Embiid's going to have to play at an MVP level like he's been all season.
Yes.
Who's the guy that's like scaring you the most, or maybe not even a guy? What is scaring you the most about the Sixers team? Is it just the fourth quarter breakdowns? Is it Doc? You know what I mean? As far as like what specific part of the team is worrying you there?
So what's really worrying me, and the whole bench conversation, real quick, when people are very worried about the bench isn't playing that well. These guys are bench players for a reason. They're not supposed to be the guys to win basketball games. The bench is most likely not going to be the reason why you lose games. And if you're using that excuse, that's a little bit worrisome to me. You know what I mean? Because the star is supposed to be the one to win games.
Yeah.
James Harden, and I hate saying it because I still love him, and I've been saying the whole time he'll figure it out by the playoffs. But when Harden has a bad game, and even when Embiid plays really well, the rest of the team struggles. Because that's the kind of player that James Harden is. He's the facilitator. You know what I mean? So when he doesn't play well, it gets the rest of the team to not play well, and it puts all of the pressure on Joel Embiid. So when I see that, that's what kind of worries me the most. The fourth quarter meltdowns, of course, we know Doc Rivers' history with fourth quarters, 3-1 series. It doesn't matter. The guy just can't come up in the clutch.
Yeah.
But so he's going to worry me a little bit, but the main thing to me is James Harden. When James Harden plays well, when James Harden does better than shooting 4 for 13 with 8 assists with 20 points, when he plays better than that, this team is so good and a very good basketball team. But when he doesn't put up just those kind of numbers, the team overall struggles. So easily James Harden is what is going to worry me the most. I'm hoping when it hits playoff time, he's going to take it more serious. Not that he's not now, but just hopefully figures it out by then, because James Harden, he really is what I think is the make or break of this team.
Yeah, and that was going to be a question I was going to ask you later, but I'll start with this next one here, and it kind of just rides the coattail of the finish to the season, I guess you could say. So I talked to you a little bit about this before we went on air. They got the Pacers, Raptors, Pacers, Pistons last 4 games. Looks like Embiid and Harden are going to go tonight. Do you put those guys out there? Like, I guess my thought process is like, you want your team as healthy as possible, but on the other side of that, like you said, they could use the extra gameplay to build chemistry. And then, of course, Embiid, we'll talk about this next. Embiid's trying to win that MVP. So he kind of has to play if he wants to keep himself in the combo. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Would you play him down the stretch?
So it's always a touchy subject. We've had it last year with the Eagles when we didn't know if we wanted them to start the last game because we're like, oh, well, like, they could use it so they play better together, or do we really want to risk injury? I don't want these guys playing that much. The MVP award, of course, is extremely important, very important to Embiid. So I don't see him getting benched because I think he can just say to Doc, right, I want this MVP bad. But if I were in Doc's shoes, I would not want to play these guys that much. I don't think these couple games against these bad basketball teams besides the Raptors, I don't think that's going to create any more chemistry than you already have. Yeah. So honestly, I don't want to really risk anything. I want them playing a little bit. I'm not saying bench them entirely. Let them play like a few minutes and everything. But yeah, I would definitely bench them for like the long haul because imagine if something does happen. You know what I mean? And God forbid, like knock on wood and everything. But say something terrible happens right before the playoffs just because you wanted someone to win an MVP. Like I get it. It's a huge award, but there's some more important things. I want Embiid focusing more on how this team can do in the playoffs than his MVP race. And I know that's easier for us to say than him, but that should be what's more important on the list. So I'm hoping they don't play as much, at least knock him down a little bit. We know Joel needs his rest anyway. Let him get some rest because that dude has played so much basketball this year, and a lot of the time he was doing it by himself. Let the guy rest. Let Harden rest a little bit. Let them figure it out. And I don't think that they're going to get any better from playing against the Pacers a couple times,
Right. I agree. And, it's nights like this where you want to see, obviously I don't want to see them get benched, like you said. You want to see them come out strong at the beginning and take care of a team like the Pacers. And it's something that they didn't do against the Pistons, which always, it leaves that worry there with this team. And I think that's, another thing to notate just before we move on to the next topic is like, if we can't sit here and feel safe against these small teams, what are we saying? Like the ceiling for the Sixers is so like on the end of the spectrum as far as the floor. Mm-hmm. It's like ceiling, this team can win an NBA championship. Floor, this team is out first round.
Yeah.
And
I wholeheartedly agree.
It's really crazy, man. One last thing on Harden. I know we talked about it a little bit there. I know I let you go off, but as far as Harden, do you think like what is it? Because like some nights he looks, like vintage Harden. You can go for 30s, he's hitting three, like step back threes. He's showing confidence. He's playing with energy. And like you said, the energy just hasn't been there probably the last 2 or 3 weeks in reality. So like with Harden, with the Sixers in general, do you think that they're just bored right now? Like they're ready to play intense playoff basketball? Like they haven't played an 82 game season in like 3 seasons or so just due to COVID? Or do you think like, is Harden beat up right now? Like, is he injured? Like, because every other game, it seems like he gets up hobbling, right? Mm-hmm. But then the next game, he just looks like vintage Harden moving down. His first steps back. He's driving past guys, getting AM1s. And then the next game, he can't even move.
Right.
So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are as far as his health right now.
Yeah. So I'm not totally sure what it is, but something I haven't really seen thrown out there that I could kind of see. I think he might be a little bit confused about his role on this team. When he was in Houston, he had to be the guy. He had to be the guy to drop 40 points a night if they wanted to even possibly win. You know what I mean? Now, when he comes to this team, he doesn't have to do that anymore. And I think every time he goes into a game and he sees, okay, maybe Embiid isn't on it as much. So now I need to really focus up and get real energized and win this game for us. And then other games, sees Embiid go like have his day. Joel Embiid do his Joel Embiid thing right away. And he's like, okay, I don't have to do as much. Let me just try to facilitate a little bit. And then his shot gets off a little bit. So what I think it is that he's a little bit confused. He's not really used to having that other star. You know what I mean? When he was in Houston, it was just him. He doesn't have to be that guy anymore. even when Embiid doesn't really have like an off night because Embiid is just different. But even on those off nights, Harden really just needs to be that facilitator that can still score. He's going to get his fouls and everything. He doesn't have to be that guy to put up 15 threes a game and just and absolutely drop 35 a night. Doesn't have to be that guy. And I think that's just what's in him a little bit because that's where he succeeded most. That's where everyone noticed him was when he was doing that.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of confusion, and that's why I think he'll have time to figure it out by the playoffs. He just needs to figure out his exact role, and I'd like to think that it's not an injury, anything like that.
Yeah.
I hope so. So my real thought is that he's just a little bit confused with his role, and hopefully he figures it out.
That would make a ton of sense as well. Just looking at kind of the different ways that he's even played, right? Like different nights he asserts himself like completely different. And also it doesn't help when you got Doc Rivers saying, "Oh, James doesn't shoot enough." Then the next game, James shoot too much. He blames the bench production on James. It's like, which one do we want here? And I know it's somewhere in between, it's somewhere in the middle of both of those games is where we want James really asserting himself. But just looking at James, I think that's a great point that you bring up there is just as far as, his confusion, because it could also even stem from and I hate to throw fan expectations out there. I don't really think they're looking at it, but just narratives in a sense. And you look at what was here before with Ben Simmons. It's like, we don't want to see he score 10 points either, right?
Yeah,
like that's very exactly. Ben Simmons, like, and maybe that's in the back of his head too. You know what I mean? On those nights, like against the Hornets, he had 12 points and 13 assists or something. So like he wasn't really scoring that much, but he didn't shoot that much either. Last question about Harden. We're gonna get into the MVP combo next. What is the ideal expectation for James Harden in the playoffs? Like, what does he need to be? Does he need to just stick to that facilitator that gets everybody involved? Like, where would you like? Is there a specific stat line you would like to see him out at throughout the playoffs?
Yeah, so James Harden, again, does not have to be his Houston Rockets self.
Right.
Joel Embiid is going to be that guy, and I have full faith that he is still going to do that. James Harden has to make the rest of the team better.
That's his job.
That is his job. James Harden does not have to I still want him to be himself and still go out there and score. He still should be the second leading scorer on this team, but his main job should be facilitating, getting Tyrese Maxey open, we can't forget about these first couple weeks. Matisse Thybulle at times was shooting 6 threes a game because a lot of focus on James Harden, and James Harden was the facilitator and getting Matisse Thybulle open.
100%.
We can't act like that didn't happen. That's what we need out of James Harden. That needs to be his first priority for us 76ers. The 76ers to win games, they need James Harden to facilitate. A stat line that I would like to see out of him pretty consistently. 24 points, 10 assists, and I don't even care about the rebounds, but that's what it needs to be about. Focus on assist and still be the second leading scorer because he's going to be playing over 40. He's going to be playing 40 minutes a game. It doesn't matter because the starting five should be on the court the majority of the time. All this bench talk we've been having this regular season, that's going to be an option in the playoffs because we know how bad they've been playing. But in playoff basketball, you do not play the bench that much because they shouldn't be on the court as much.
Exactly.
You need your stars to go out there and to ball. Harden needs to go out there, facilitate first, still score. And that's not too much to ask out of a guy like James Harden. If we're going to go out here and say, actually, this is what I need Tyrese Maxey to do and to put up those numbers, that's not fair to Maxey. Yeah. To James Harden, it's extremely realistic. What would be extra be like, hey, I need you to be your Rockets up. I need you to drop 40 with 6 assists.
Right.
That's insane. 25-10 is not a lot to ask out of James Harden. It is something that is actually realistic, something that he can do, and something that I hope that he will do because facilitating is what his job is now on this team. Joel Embiid is the guy to score us points. He's the guy to score 35 points a game. He's not going to be the facilitator. That's James Harden's job, and that's kind of what I need to see James Harden to do if we want the Sixers to win in this in the playoffs this year.
And as you were talking through that, Jeremy, it came to my mind, and I guess I'll throw it to you. like the way Chris Paul and Devin Booker operate in Phoenix.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where Chris Paul is just kind of, you get down to those late game situations. It's not that Chris Paul necessarily has to get you a bucket himself. He just puts guys in the right situations to get them easy buckets. And kind of down the stretch of that Phoenix game when Philly did blow that huge lead, it was kind of the first half was like operate the offense around Devin Booker, let him go the hell off. They were down in that game. Second half, they decide to let Chris Paul orchestrate the offense, and they end up, going up by 10 in the second half at one point. So just kind of, looking at that model, it's obviously not the same. You have a big man versus a shooting guard, but they both are high density scorers, right? Like they score a lot of points. And that's what you're going to rely on Joel Embiid to do. Whereas James Harden, like you said, if he can just be, I know Chris Paul is very efficient. I think that's the difference there.
Yes.
But James Harden, I think, can do it at just a little bit better clip as far as scoring versus assists. So just an idea there in a concept, a comparison in a sense. I wanted to ask you, obviously, the MVP. We've kind of, went around the conversation a few times today. Very straightforward. Who's your MVP right now, Jeremy? And, it's a tough question. Whatever answer, I'm not going to argue with you, but who's your MVP right now, my man?
So whenever we do shows, like I have my shows, you have yours, I try to be the most unbiased I can possible. And even my unbiased take, and I have pissed off a lot of Philadelphia fans. I really, really have, based on my takes. I still think Joel Embiid is the MVP of this league. I really do. Giannis is not far behind him in my eyes. And I know we will also get to that, but Joel Embiid in my eyes is the MVP. It sucks the way it's going down right now because it's not his fault. The guy had a 44.17 rebound game and his odds went down. It's
against the playoff team.
Yeah, it is really just insane to me. I don't think there's like bias towards Philly, like Joel said. I don't think
that was going to be my next question.
Okay, right. So I don't think it's anything like that, but also I don't really have an answer for what it is. Joel Embiid said in press conferences, I don't know if it's this or not. In the end, I don't know why, but there's got to be something, and I don't have an answer. I want an answer. Yeah. I truly believe that Joel Embiid should be the MVP of the NBA this year.
Yeah, and I'm, like you said, I'm not trying to be biased here. Just the way the award has been awarded in the past. Like, Jokic just won it last year. If they're having the same caliber season, you would have voters fatigue. Any other season, you would vote for the new guy in the picture. But it's like they're just going. I don't know what this Jokic thing is, and it's like I don't hate Nikola Jokic. Like,
no, not at all.
Not hate him.
He's phenomenal. Seriously,
I don't think anybody in Philly hates him. I really don't. But it's like this driving narrative that he doesn't get enough attention, and that Embiid does. Embiid didn't win the MVP last year, and the reasoning behind it was because he didn't play enough games. He's played enough games to stay in every standing and every statistic this season. So you cannot penalize him for games played this season. And so to his point, like, what else does he have to do? Like, and then my thing is, like, the Jokic stands will tell you that he's a better defender. That's a lie.
That's a really bad take.
Blatant lie. I don't care what statistics say. That is a blatant lie. And some people will even say over Giannis. Like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah,
like,
crazy. Absolutely insane. Well, that's the Jokic stands. You know what I mean? That's just how they're gonna be. And I'm sure there's Joel Embiid guys that are like that too. But we notice the Jokic guys more,
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well. Is there anybody outside of those three that you think is in the conversation? And would you? I believe I understood you. So Embiid, Giannis, and then Jokic. Is Jokic your third there?
Yeah, Jokic is my third. And again, I don't want to take anything away from him. He's had a phenomenal year. He is a absolutely extraordinary basketball player. He really is. His talent is insane, and I do believe he's the second best center in the league. I'll tell you that for sure. But Joel Embiid should be first. Other guys, I don't think there's anyone that can really compete with those three. That's kind of like the big three. But there is some names out there. I mean, Luka Doncic's name has been thrown out there for me. I've seen a lot. dude's an absolute baller. What he just beat him and the Mavericks just beat the Bucks a couple nights ago. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't think anyone's name is really in contention with these three. These three have just played on a whole new level this year. But Luka is really the only one that's really close to me. I love Luka Doncic this year. That's probably some bias thrown in there a little bit, but I love Luka Doncic. I love
he's balling, man. If you look at the numbers,
balling.
If you look at the numbers, he's right there. And you talk about, I know that everything gets talked about Jokic and this Nuggets squad without MPJ and Jamal Murray. Look at the Mavericks roster. I mean, Jalen Brunson is probably the second best player on that team. And no disrespect to him, I'm not going to call him. He's way better than a role player. So I don't even know what to call Jalen Brunson. I'm not going to put him in that.
He's a starter in the NBA.
He's a starter, but is he second best player on your team
No.
caliber? I don't think so. I don't think you should be winning as many games as they are. With that being the case, but definitely in the combo. I had one more thing with Embiid that I wanted to touch on. I can't. It's like slipping my mind right now. It was definitely regarding the MVP standings. Oh my goodness, what was it? Of course, it slips my mind here.
Yeah.
No, I remember now. So I just wanted to bring it all together in reality, but any of these three guys could win it, and I think it's deserving. Like, let me just phrase it that way. I don't think you can be mad, but I guess what will kind of anger me is what I said earlier, just that voters fatigue. Giannis has won it twice already. If him and Embiid are on the same level right now as far as dominance, give it to Embiid. Yeah. That's what they do. Like, I'm not saying to do that because of that reason.
Right.
I'm just saying that's what you normally do.
Right.
So, like, don't step out of character now when it's the Philly guy. Otherwise, it does seem like that in a sense. And then same thing with Jokic and Embiid as well. It's like Jokic just won it last year. If they are on the same level this year, then you should give it to Embiid. And I don't even think that's the case. I think Embiid is a way better defender, like we discussed, and that's kind of what separates them for me. Just to kind of close this conversation out, I definitely didn't want to keep you over 30 here, Jeremy. But
you're good. You're good.
We're getting close there. Final question. Well, no, I do got two for you. I lied.
You're good. You're good.
Second to last question here. Expectations. What is the success benchmark for the Sixers in the playoffs? Eastern Conference Finals, just get it, just getting there, getting to the finals, winning a championship. What is your definition of a successful postseason for the Sixers this season?
I need a really good series in the conference finals. I don't need a win. I am a very patient Philly fan. I don't need an Eastern Conference Final win this year. Yeah. You had Harden for half a year. You know what I mean? Embiid, of course, had an amazing year. I'm really sure he can do it again. I need an Eastern Conference, a really good series.
Yeah.
If we go in here and we get first or second rounded, I'm livid. I am absolutely livid with this basketball team. But if they go to the conference finals, and even if they even get destroyed in there, I'm also livid. But if they can get a 6 or 7 game series, all the games are close, and we just not have enough firepower, I am okay. Like, I'm not gonna be happy about it, but I am still willing to be very happy with how this team did in the playoffs. Yeah. If they just have a really good Eastern Conference Finals series. Anything other than that, I'm livid, I'm pissed off, and I will be on this show ready to just rumble about yelling about stuff.
I'm with you, bro. And it's funny. I was talking about this after Duke lost on Saturday, which I'm going to talk about that later in the show. But just in my head, I was like, okay, time to move on, like, to Sixers playoffs. And I'm just like, God, my heart's about to get broke again. Like, I just, like, feel it. And, like, hopefully they prove me wrong. But, like, to your point of them getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, why that is such a big, kind of milestone in a sense, it's just one step further than what they got with that core of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, from before. So that's a huge step in itself, just making the conference finals, getting to the third round. So I'm with you. I think that's where it's at. Should I be out here expecting them to go into the Eastern Conference Finals and just beat the Bucks? Nah, I don't expect that, honestly. Yeah. I don't. I think the Bucks are probably the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. But I would love to see them get that series, and I would love to see them go at it. And that's what I need from them, especially when you're talking about it's James Harden's first season, right? So, like, you can't expect a championship, even though they can be contenders, but it shouldn't be expected, I don't think, and they definitely aren't the favorite. Final question, and this is kind of tails off of that one, but Doc Rivers, the rumor came out today that, there may be interest from the LA Lakers and Doc Rivers and Quinn Snyder from the Utah Jazz. Hard to say where those type of rumors come from. Some assume that it would come from Doc Rivers' camp, actually, but we won't assume here. I want your thoughts on that. If there's any weight to that, like, what does that make you think about this whole situation with Doc? And then the caveat question to that: what happens in the playoffs for Doc to get fired for real?
So those reports, I also saw them too. Sure. If he has a bad playoff run, I don't care. Let him lose. That's the point that I'm at. His regular season and all of these fourth quarter chokes and everything, and just how things have gone down in Philly. He is a legendary coach. Don't get me wrong. And yeah, he really is a legendary coach. But when he's going to keep on struggling and he can't keep on getting the job done, you got to move on. Yeah. You really do, because this team has the talent to do it, and they just need a right coach to just push them in the right direction and do everything right. Doc Rivers has not really done that this year. He struggled in the past with us so far. It's all down to this playoff series. If this guy takes the Eastern Conference Finals, has a good series, he's very deserving of staying, and I would hope that we would do everything we can to keep him to stay. But if he just blows it, struggles in the first and second round, I'm okay with just letting him out. With the talent that he's had on this team, and with the furthest we've gone is the second round, correct?
Yeah.
That is awful, absolutely atrocious. So if he can't fix that by this year, I'm fine with canning him. I'm fine with letting him go to the Lakers. I don't really care where you go, because if you're going to keep on choking, I really do not care.
That's somewhere else.
I don't care.
Definitely. No, I'm with you, man. That's exactly where I'm at. And, the red flags from Doc, it's not just like the second round exits. It's the meltdowns that we watch. Yep. I mean, against Atlanta in the second round last year, we watched them blow, a 26-point lead? Was it 20? Yep. Didn't get up that high like that. Every time I say it out loud, it's
like mid-20s.
I mean, that's unreal. And that's, maybe if Doc didn't do it in LA in the first place with the Clippers, it might not even be a narrative, but my goodness, he blows leads, and it's kind of insane. Just a final question off of that. Do you think that is like a bad sign for them going into the playoffs? That stuff like that is being leaked. Like, how do you feel about that in regards to them getting ready for the playoffs?
No, I'm not really totally worried about it. I think this is it usually happens more with players than with coaches, but I don't think there's really a difference. I think that this is, again, I don't want to assume, but this is something that the Doc Rivers camp can really just be pushing out to really try to, if it doesn't work out well, at least he's already starting to maybe find connections and maybe get a spot. It's something that he's going to do to better his career. Right. That's fine. I don't think that takes away from him wanting to win. This guy still wants to win. Say he still does want to leave. If he wins a championship and say he wants to leave after anyway, God, imagine how much better he'll look. The championship winning head coach is out to find a new job. Oh, come on now. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's going to want a gun for it.
Yeah.
So no matter what, I think he wants this championship very much as bad as possible. I think he's just trying kind of to ensure his future, making sure that he still can. If something goes wrong, he's already out here, starting rumors, getting the possibility of him still getting another job. And that Lakers job would be huge. They still have LeBron and AD. That is ready for a championship at any time. Something can happen. So I think that's just kind of what's starting up. And, it's fine. It doesn't really bother me as long as he goes out there and wins. I don't care what his reasoning is for. Go out there, win this Sixers team some games. If you want to leave after for any reason, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, straight up. The Sixers win a championship. I can chill for a little.
Yeah, you can go. I still don't care. We want a chip.
I'm with you, bro. As long as I get to have that parade, we're good, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. But Jeremy, that is all I got for you with the Sixers today. That's going to wrap up the Sixers talk. Once again, thank you for coming on the show, my man. You'll definitely be on during the playoffs, I'm sure. We may even get like a full DSM thing going here right before the playoffs begin. But definitely thank you for coming on. And guys, if you're watching, if you're listening, make sure you are following Jeremy on Twitter at J Horwoth. 11, and I made sure to not throw that second R in there.
You got that.
Definitely, is Twitter the best place to find you, Jeremy? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, definitely Twitter. You will see all of my terrible baseball tweets. That's where you'll find me.
And then, of course, just let everybody know what you got going on at DSM. You know, all around, man. Where they can find you.
Yeah, definitely. So Monday and Friday nights, me and my co-host George Ryder have some of the worst scheduling issues ever. We have 2 shows and we don't know exactly when we want to post them. We have Broad Street Bulls and we have Diamond Talk. As of right now, Friday night is Diamond Talk after the Phillies opening day game. I'll be going. And then when I get home at 9:00, we'll be live post-game show going over this first Phillies game. So make sure you tune in at 9:00 on Friday night. You'll see me and George and really working on a special guest right now. So just a little bit of a little thing going on there, but we'll see.
I like it. Yeah. Definitely check it out on Friday. I can't wait for some Phillies baseball, man. We got some high hopes. I won't say too high, but like we got some decent hopes that make us feel good at least.
We got some fun coming for sure.
So definitely check out Jeremy on Fridays and Mondays on DSM Media with his co-host George Ryder. But Jeremy, once again, thank you for coming on, my brother.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, man. You too.
Always.
All right.
Peace, bro.
Peace.
All right. So, as you know, make sure go give Jeremy a follow. He's awesome, as you can see, and he knows his Philly sports. He knows his baseball. He knows his basketball. He knows it all across the board here. Make sure you give him a follow. But now we finish up, as we always do, with just a simple trip around the NBA. So I'm just going to touch on a few of the widespread topics. And we'll go right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about, obviously, got a ton of NBA action kicking off tonight. I know you'll be seeing this Wednesday morning, so it's kind of irrelevant in a sense. But at least I'll give you a rundown of kind of how things, depending on how they play out, will affect just the standings. So just to give you an overview, Eastern Conference standings right now, we're just looking at the play-in situation. So we got the 7 seed Cleveland Cavaliers. They're sitting at 43-36. They play the Orlando Magic tonight. The Atlanta Hawks are actually the 8 seed, so they moved ahead of the Hornets and the Brooklyn Nets. And it's the first time I've seen them, at least, in the top 8 in a while. So, just watching out for the Hawks there. We're going to talk about a few of these teams that you might not want to see in the playoffs. We'll talk about them a little bit after this. But just continuing this rundown, the Hawks do play the Toronto Raptors tonight, who are currently the 6th seed, I believe, may even have scooted up to the 5 seed. I would have to check the upper standings. But underneath of the Hawks, we have at the 9 seed, the Charlotte Hornets at 40-38. They play the Miami Heat tonight. That's going to be a tough one, depending. Well, I don't know what the situation is with Miami, if they're playing their starters right now or not. I believe they got that 1 seed. I'm not sure how far ahead they are with that 1 seed, but nonetheless, Charlotte gets Miami tonight. It will be pretty tough regardless. Let's be honest. Miami's pretty deep. Rounding them out at number 10 is the Brooklyn Nets, 40-38. They have dropped all the way down to the 10 seed. They can't fall any further than that, given that the rest of the teams below them are eliminated. But they got, 4 games left. They do have to take advantage. Do you really want to go into the Eastern Conference play-in tournament as the 10 seed, where every game, if you lose, you could go home for 2 games? I don't know if Brooklyn wants to do that, although do you really expect Brooklyn to lose those 2 play-in games? I'm not sure about that. As we look over to the Western Conference, a little bit bigger of a scope just because not all the teams below the 10 seed have been eliminated. We have the 7 seed Minnesota Timberwolves, which they will play the Washington Wizards tonight. The Timberwolves are sitting at 45-34, so they got that 7 seed pretty secure. They're about 6 games ahead of the LA Clippers. Right below the Minnesota Timberwolves, we have at the 8 seed the LA Clippers at 39-40, and they actually don't play tonight, but they have locked in a play-in spot at least. So they will at least be in the Western Conference play-in tournament. Right below them, we have at the 9 seed the New Orleans Pelicans. They're 34-44, and they actually play Sacramento Kings tonight, who have not been playing very well. Right below them, we actually had the Spurs move ahead of the LA Lakers for the 10th seed, and they are sitting at 33-45. They play Denver tonight, which is obviously going to be a tough one. Denver's still playing for seeding. And then at the 11th seed, as I said, it's a little bit of a bigger picture. We have the LA Lakers at 31-47. They are 2 games behind the Spurs, and they play Phoenix tonight. So if they lose to Phoenix tonight, they will be eliminated from the playoff picture, and that is quite insane, to say the least. And as you mentioned earlier, the rumors are swirling. We had what Magic said about, the LeBron and Russell Westbrook situation as far as DeMar DeRozan and him coming to LA. LeBron, vouched for Westbrook. Apparently that came right from Magic Johnson on First Take. And then, of course, the rumors swirling about Frank Vogel, the head coach of the Lakers, being let go. And then, of course, Quinn Snyder from Utah and then Doc Rivers from Philly have been mentioned as possible candidates for that position. But nonetheless, scary times in LA for the Lakers for sure. Who's the most dangerous in the play-in? That's something I just wanted to kind of wrap this segment up with. Looking at the Lakers, with a healthy LeBron and AD, can they make the play-in? It's going to be tough. You're playing Phoenix tonight, and you could be eliminated if they beat you. But I will say, if the Lakers could somehow make the play-in, somehow make the playoffs, if they could get LeBron and AD healthy, Westbrook has been playing better. They've had other guys step up during these times of injuries. So you got a little bit to work there. Obviously AD and LeBron have previously won an NBA championship. You got a little bit to work there with. Obviously, you're coming from the play-in. That's a lot of stuff to get through, and you also have to get guys healthy. You're asking a lot. Still a dangerous team if they can complete all of those ifs, right? Nets, obviously the Nets. With KD and Kyrie, it's always going to be scary. You don't want to play against those guys. It's an unlimited scoring punch right there. They could drop 100. They could drop 50 each, and you wouldn't even see it coming. Ben Simmons been ruled out through the play-in tournament. I know Tim Legler has mentioned that he thinks the Brooklyn Nets could have an early out. If they can get through the play-in tournament, I think they will at least get to the second round. And then maybe in the second round, if they're beat up or, having to go through all of that before you even get to the second round, maybe they can lose in the second round. I get the defensive concerns, especially if Ben Simmons is not going to be playing there, which, what is wrong with this guy? I mean, that's a whole other conversation, and I'm not spending any more time on Ben Simmons, period. Atlanta is the next team I'm looking at. And, obviously they're coming on late. They knocked off the number 1 seed Philadelphia 76ers last year as a 5 seed. So I'm not sleeping on the Atlanta Hawks. I'm not sleeping on Trae Young and what he can do down there. And that's a team that is coming on late. You talk about the Hornets or even the Cavaliers. I would be more scared of the Hawks than the Cavs or the Hornets. I would be more scared of the Nets than all 3 of those teams, obviously. Charlotte, though, you mentioned the Hornets. They have a ton of young firepower. You got LaMelo Ball, who brings that star power. They just got Gordon Hayward back. You got Terry Rozier. You got some guys there. They picked up Montrezl Harrell. So that's a formidable team. Not a team I would necessarily be scared of. Can Cleveland get healthy? That's a huge question mark going into the playoffs. They've really slowed down with all these injuries. Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, obviously Colin Sexton earlier in the season. So they got to get some guys back right in order to be successful in the playoffs. The Minnesota Timberwolves. My opinion, I mentioned it earlier, they're like 6 games ahead of the next seed. They honestly shouldn't even have to be in the play-in tournament, in my opinion. I consider them a legit playoff team. I love Minnesota. I really do. Karl Anthony Towns has been balling. Anthony Edwards is a stud. D'Angelo Russell is here or there, but Patrick Beverley brings a very unique toughness to the team. And it's just a solid team all around. And I think they could give a few teams a little bit of a fit. You talk about in the first round, if you're playing like Memphis, it's a young team. I get it. I would probably still pick Memphis to win that series. It's a young team. They can take advantage of that if you're the Timberwolves. But my thinking with the Timberwolves is, if Karl Anthony Towns, if Anthony Edwards, if one of them or even both of them play their asses off in the playoffs, they can steal a series in the playoffs. I truly believe it. Next team, LA Clippers. They're going to be dangerous. They've locked in a play-in spot. They get Paul George back. Not sure what the situation is with Kawhi Leonard, but I like the Clippers. They're getting healthy. Tyronn Lue said what he said about Embiid and Harden. I'm not going to hold that against his coaching ability. He's a good coach. He keeps the Clippers ready. Looking at New Orleans, that's the last team I'm going to mention here. The Pelicans. The only way that they can have a legit shot to be scary is if Zion comes back ASAP. and you can get him back before the first round. I think it was his stepdad, all these family members coming out saying that he may be able to return before the end of the season. Don't know how soon that is. We just saw him doing windmills about a week or two ago. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But that's the current state of these play-in teams. If we're looking and getting ready for the playoff situations, just as far as who I take as like serious out of here, because I don't think the Lakers are going to get there. It's too much stacked against them. So as much as I think they could be scary if they actually make it, don't think they will. The Nets, the Hawks, Minnesota, once again, I don't think they're a legit play-in team. I think they're a legit playoff team. But the Nets, Hawks, Minnesota, and the LA Clippers, I would say, are the scariest teams coming out of the play-ins. And not teams you want to see if you're a top seed, especially with some of them getting healthy. Next thing I wanted to talk about, JB Bickerstaff, after that game against Cleveland for the Sixers the other night. Very close game down the stretch. Embiid dominated 44-17. JB Bickerstaff has a nerve to literally bicker after the game, talking about Embiid and Harden get to the free throw line. Bro, teach your guys how to play defense. Teach them how to get better at defense. Make them better defenders. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Stop blaming the refs. It is not their fault that your players cannot guard Joel Embiid. They simply can't. No win is deserved if you don't win. You guys didn't deserve a win if you didn't win. Crying about calls, come on. Stop it. Fouls are fouls. They're going to get called, and that's the way the NBA, that's the way basketball around the world works. That was very weak by JB Bickerstaff. I think he's way better than that. He's obviously a great coach in what he's done with Cleveland this year. Be better than that. That's embarrassing if you're a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, player, whatever the case may be. That's embarrassing. The last thing I'm going to close the show out with, just wanted to speak on my Duke Blue Devils. So we end the trip around the NBA with LeBron talking to Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird on the the Bird and Taurasi show, says that he would have went to He would have went to Duke or UNC if he actually did go to college instead of going straight from high school to the NBA. So that's just an interesting tidbit, which brings me to the end of the college basketball season. I know this is an NBA show, but I have to say goodbye to my man, Coach K. Definitely just wanted to say, obviously Duke lost to UNC in the Final Four. It was a tough game to watch, tough game for me to swallow. I was depressed, probably still am. Cried a little bit after I, saw some of Coach K's tribute videos. He retires. This is my final message regarding it. It's just on a public standpoint. Obviously, I'm going to talk about Coach K for the rest of my life. Coach K, let's just look at the accolades. I want to list them out for you because you deserve to know them. Coached at Duke from 1980 to 2022. 5 national titles. 13 Final Fours. That's the most of all time. 15 ACC tournament championships. 13 ACC regular season championships. An overall record of 1,202 wins to 368 losses. That's a .766 winning percentage for his entire 42-year career. That is insane. And by the way, he leads all coaches in NCAA history in wins. He's the most winningest coach ever at 1,202 wins. 101 to 30 in the NCAA tournament. Record of 101 to 30. A record of 65 to 22 in the ACC tournament. He was a 3-time Naismith Coach of the Year, College Coach of the Year, 5-time ACC Coach of the Year. He's won 6 gold medals between FIBA and the Olympics. And he's simply one of the GOATs. And that's where I'm going to leave this Coach K topic at. Sending all my love to Coach K. Definitely deserves this opportunity to retire, enjoy the rest of his life with his family, do the things that he loves to do outside of basketball. But the game of basketball, the sport, not just college basketball, not just Duke University, the game of basketball will miss Coach K. So just want to say thank you, Coach K. And thank you to the Duke team that made the Final Four. A lot of people are going to say this was a failure by this team. I'll tell you this. You go from last year, you didn't even make the tournament, to this year, you're in the Final Four. You lose to a rival. It happens. No team knows you better than UNC if you're Duke. No team knows you better. No team knows UNC better than Duke. UNC got the better of them 2 out of 3 times this season, and that is what it is. Kudos to UNC. But I'm proud of this Duke team. Think about it this way. If you're Jeremy Roach, if you're Paulo Banchero, if you're Mark Williams, if you're AJ Griffin, down the line, guys, Wendell Moore, who was special this year, Trevor Keels, all of you guys that got playing time, all of you guys that contributed to this team, Theo John, all of you guys, down to the last guy on the bench, be proud of yourselves. You took a team that didn't even make the tournament to the Final Four the following season. And look at it this way. We've had so many greats come through Duke. Jason Tatum never made a Final Four. Marvin Bagley never made a Final Four. Jabari Parker never made a Final Four. Zion and RJ didn't make a Final Four. Down the line, you can go down the list. You're a special team. You're one of Coach K's 13 Final Four teams. And I know 13 is a lot. It's the most of all time as a coach in the NCAA. But you're one of those 13. You're one of history, and you're one of the GOAT's 13 best teams of all time. And you got to be proud of that. I'll leave it there. As far as UNC, just kind of solidifying the college season, because I don't know, obviously you're watching this if you're an NBA fan. That March Madness, that tournament was one of the best ever. There's so many narratives floating around, starting at Coach K's retirement, his farewell tour, but it doesn't end there. Hubert Davis, first year coaching of UNC. Roy Williams retires last year. Takes his team to the national championship. Bill Self gets back to the national championship, wins his first one since 2008. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that went into this. St. Peter's Cinderella story. I mean, there's so much that happened, and what can I say? Villanova, I got to shout out Villanova as a Philly guy here. But to end the season there, UNC blows a 15-point lead at half. Go KU. Yeah. I as much kudos as I'm giving to UNC, I needed them to lose. I can't have Hubert Davis winning one in his first year. I need John Shire to do that next year so he can one-up Hubert Davis. But they end up losing 72-69 in a heartbreaker in the national championship. UNC should be proud, but their fans fucking suck, and I hate them. I hate the trolls that came in my mentions on Twitter. Fuck you. If you got unfollowed, you know why. It is what it is. If my thing is, if you're only hitting me up, we call ourselves friends and this and that. If you're only hitting me up for negativity and things when you need them, we're not friends, bro. I don't need to do any favors. Neither do you. It is what it is. We leave it at that. And, UNC fans fucking suck, but they should be proud. And I want to leave Cole out of that UNC fans suck, because Cole is our intern here at DSM. He's a UNC fan, but he is one of the best UNC fans I've ever met, and somebody I don't have to argue with. We can just agree that it's a great rivalry, and I love that. Hell of a tournament all around. Hell of a show today. Thank you once again to Jeremy for joining me. That is all I have for you all. I hope you guys enjoy this tomorrow morning. And be sure to check out all of the content throughout the day here on DSM Media. We always keep the schedule packed and the content coming. Make sure you're following DSM Media at DSM_media on Twitter, at DSM.DoSomethingMajor on Instagram, and at DSM Media straight up on TikTok. Make sure you follow us on there. Content coming every day. For myself, you can find me at Scotty Drown across the board on social media platforms. That is going to be it for this episode of Scotty Talks NBA. Peace, everybody. Go Sixers. Get ready for the playoffs, guys.